Hello and welcome to the Creative Consciousness Radio Show on Blog Talk Radio. We are your hosts, Sam and Cabrini Greco, coming to you live from beautiful planet Earth. Throughout our conversation, we will be covering topics such as spirituality, global consciousness, metaphysics, and where you think we're truly headed. We have a great show to share with you today, so bookmark us and receive reminders. And you can visit our website at alltruenatural.com.
Well, good morning and welcome to our Sunday morning light show here on Creative Consciousness Radio. Today is June 21st, 2015, and we are so thrilled to be with you this morning. We just gathered up our espresso and are getting really comfortable in our chairs so we can sit back and really enjoy this beautiful Sunday morning. And you know, every once in a while, twice a month, we bring individuals on our show, on our Sunday morning light show, to share their perspective of their purposed life. And we have a wonderful guest that's going to be with us this morning that my husband, Sam, will be introducing in just a few moments. We want to thank you for being with us and supporting us on our show, and also for holding the space in our chat room. For those of you that are listening live, you can also call in 267-521-0151 and speak directly with our guest today. We are hosting a festival in Las Cruces, New Mexico for 350 individuals. This event is being offered to the community to celebrate and collaborate together. We have 16, I believe it's 16, how does it work? 7 speakers, 13 workshops, 5 dancers. We have one incredible one-man jam band that's going to be presenting at our festival. And we really encourage you to check out our website at oneheartoneloveonespirit.org. We are a nonprofit. Feel free to contribute to our work and support our projects on our website. So with that, I want to wish you all a very blessed day, filled with joy and harmony and, experiences of yourself that really do represent your totality and your own well-being. And with that, I'm going to pass my mic over to my husband, who will be introducing our guest this morning. And let's have a great show. Here you go. I'm going to pass it over, and here you go, Sam.
Well, thank you, Brady, for this great introduction. And welcome to the Sunday Morning Light Show. Our guest today is Dr. Paul J. Leslie. He's an author, psychotherapist, and educator. I'm going to read a little bio on him, and we'll get the show going with the interview. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Paul J. Leslie. Dr. Paul is an author, psychotherapist, and educator in Aiken, South Carolina. He specializes in creative resource-directed approaches to working with individuals and families. His books focus on the areas of psychotherapy, healing, shamanism, and personal development. Paul has spent the last several years of his life studying ancient and modern methods of healing and the martial and meditative arts all over North America and Japan. He is presently the coordinator Behavioral Sciences program at Aiken Technical College. His goal is to be a catalyst for change in his clients and assist them in creating joy and meaning in their lives as they let go of limiting life patterns. Paul's website is Dr. Paul. That would be www.drpaul, P-A-U-L, Leslie, L-E-S-L-I-E.com. Dr. Paul, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Sam.
All right, let's get started. What do you want to talk about? Your books, your life path, anything you want to talk, any kind of thing you have in mind to talk about?
Well, I'm really open to anything. I'm just delighted to be with you, and I'm just impressed with the journey you guys are on. Just kind of following your bliss, to quote Joseph Campbell, and doing the things that are important to you. It's very inspiring.
Okay, here's a question. I have a few questions here that we've derived. What was your, you went in psychotherapy. How do you relate that to a spiritual process in your life?
Psychotherapy has gotten, in my opinion, such a bad rap over the last few years, and in some ways deservedly so. Years back, when people had mental, emotional problems, they'd seek out the local healer, the shaman, even the religious figures. And if we think about psychotherapy as one of the youngest folk medicine, there's a lot of great things that have come out of that, but in a lot of ways, the past few years, it's kind of lost its way. It's become more focused on what I call the medical model, in that, what's wrong with people, rather than what resources a person has to change. So to me, a true psychotherapy certainly is there to help a person alleviate suffering, but it needs to, look at a person as a part of a journey. They're on a journey, and their journey is to transform themselves, to learn, to grow, to go through different stages of development. And, when we all hit roadblocks, and we all will hit roadblocks, if you haven't hit a roadblock yet, you probably haven't been alive long enough. I mean, we all do that. Rather than viewing, this as, oh my God, this is a severe issue that needs tons of, medical model-based treatment, seeing, well, what do you have already inside you that can assist you in this journey of transformation? Because that's what it is. And a good psychotherapy, to me, and there's many different styles of therapy, and certainly pick the one and the therapist that works best for you if you're out there seeking, but it's one that says, you're not a broken person. You just need some help in this process of transformation. So I believe therapy can be a tool for transformation in the hands of the right therapist with the right approach. I find a lot of people who now seek spiritual solutions to everyday problems, and I think that's very admirable. But at the flip side, if all you're doing is spiritual work without dealing with the day-to-day realities of these challenges we meet, sometimes we become a little lopsided. You see it all the time, the person who's incredibly spiritual-minded, but their life's a train wreck. And then the other side is, the person who has everything in order in their life, finances, family, but yet they're suffering from this existential anxiety about the world because they've got no real spiritual component to their lives. So I think in the right hands, therapy can be, if we can just go back a little bit and grab that spirit of healing, therapy can be a fantastic utilization of the resources each person brings in order to heal and change and transform.
Wow, that's such a great, such a piercing topic, especially with people who live, very, very spiritually, and you say their life is a train wreck. What do you say to those people who? And I just see the essence of balance between both those those things.
Yeah, well, exactly. You see, everybody. I think when we think of balance, what most people I talk to, everybody seems to think the balance means that everything's good. I just want balance in my life where everything's good, and that's not balance. I don't know. This has taken me years to kind of figure out, still working on it. But if you have a coin, it's going to have two sides. Mm-hmm. And when we start to say, oh, this coin should only have one side, my life should only be good. Oh, look, I'm a spiritual person because good things are happening to me. Well, every good thing has a bad aspect to it. And again, these are all judgments that we project, but, be that as it may, you let's say you won $50 million in the lottery. Some people would say, wow, look what I can do with all this. It's so good. And then within 24 hours, some people are knocking on their door, wanting handouts, and, every relative that you never knew is coming out to find you, and then you have to eventually move out of town because, that's that balance. And when people say balance, what they're really thinking is something that's imbalanced. I shouldn't have any struggle. I shouldn't have any challenge. But when we kind of step back and go, okay, if I expect that with every positive I'm going to get a negative, and with every negative there'll be some element of positive, albeit in a form that I might not have expected, we really see the world in a way that as it is. No matter what happens to us, there's always some, other side to it. And to me, when people come to me with emotional troubles, it's because, they've been, kicked in the teeth by life, which happens, but that's all catalysts for us to grow. So the only way we can grow is when we get kicked is to process our emotions and go, okay, what's the other part of this? Oh, I just lost my job. Oh my God! Sit with it. It's emotional. Let those negative feelings, and you have a right to those. And then after a while, we need to say, well, what could possibly be a benefit to this? Because if we only see things that happen to us in a reactive, negative way, well, we're going to be anxious. We're going to be depressed. If we only see things that happen to us in a positive way, we're going to be lopsided. We're going to be, kind of like our heads in the clouds. We've got no grounding. It's only when we look at both sides of the equation and just see them for what they are. The event is the event. There it is, both sides. And at that point, then we could step back and just go, okay. Or as using, again, to quote Joseph Campbell again, is when you say yes to life, that's when, you're saying yes. And, hey, it's bad, it's good, it's both. And then you go, yes. Then your life starts to transform. But until we hold out with this fantasy that, it's all going to be good, and it's all going to be bad, we get limited. We get stuck. We have a developmental process where we get frozen. So if we can just let go of our limited perceptions about good and bad, and the idea of balance, and embrace true balance, then we can move forward. Like you guys have this big conference coming up. I was hearing, and there's going to be a lot of great stuff to that. You probably have already experienced quite a few headaches with it as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's the balance. And for us to expect that we're not going to have the headaches, it's all going to be perfect, we're just setting ourselves up for depression, anxiety, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there takes a level of self-responsibility when we look at ourselves and take in what we're going through, and understanding this wisdom coming through. Where Dr. Paul, you got this wisdom where about balance itself. There's a wisdom there that you shared with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about self-responsibility and the importance of it in the spiritual path?
It is. Quote me on this. I may change my mind tomorrow, but you can quote me on this today. Self-responsibility is the only way to ever truly become, when we're using this term spiritual, is to really become a spiritual person or a successful person. Let's just substitute success. Could be anything. Well, so many people, they think they're being responsible. We all think we're being responsible for ourselves, but if we can really step back and look at ourselves, we go, okay, who am I blaming for this? Or who am I depending on for my life to begin? What do I need to be doing about somebody else for me to have what I want? And, this level of, giving our power away to other people, other institutions and things like that, we don't even realize it. It's something that's oftentimes a habit. I will say, if you want to do anything, have anything, or be anything in your life, it is up to you. And it's up to you alone. It's not up to your spouse. It's not up to your children. It's not up to your parents. It's not up to your school. It's not up to your government, obviously. It's not up to any of that. It's up to you and you alone. No matter what challenge you're going through, there's nobody that's going to save you. You can ask for help, and asking for help sometimes is a good thing. But at the end of the day, you have to do it. You know, my father gave me this great story one time about back in the 60s. He was in the Marine Corps, and he was doing one of the exercises where it's up like 50 feet tall practically. There's this rope tied between these two posts, and you had to climb across that rope. And my father used to be horribly terrified of heights. And back then, I don't even think they had a net. That's how crazy the Marines could be back then. And he's in the middle of this rope, and he almost lost his grip, and the wind's blowing, and he looks all the way down, and he realizes he's in the middle, and something in his head said to him, "You're the only one that's going to get you across there. There's nobody that's going to help you. And by the way, if you want to have anything, do anything, or be anything, it's up to you and you alone." And what I said. And he got across there, and, you know, but from that point on, that moment was a transformative moment in his life. He stopped looking to others to help him. He stopped looking for other people to save him. He owned his life. So, Sam, what I'm saying is self-responsibility is absolutely crucial. If somebody's making you feel a certain way, somebody's making you do a certain thing, you know, that's telling us we're not owning some part of our life. Whatever area of our life we don't empower, somebody or something's going to overpower us. Simple as that.
Really well put there. Thank you for sharing this with us today. Self-responsibility, yeah. I think it's when you're on a spiritual path, I think that interest becomes satisfied, you know, in a certain way. Also, let's talk about the, you know, I have a question here, the neurobiological aspect of resolving past trauma in the unconscious. How you can resolve and remove blocks to creativity and spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, this goes kind of along with some of the things that, you know, I was speaking about earlier was about the, you know, taking responsibility. A lot of times life does happen to us, and we're not always at the cause of what happens to us. Sometimes, you know, car wrecks just happen. Sometimes children are just molested. It's a, you know, it's an unfortunate part of life. But what happens a lot of times is that our brain kind of takes in that information down at the deep unconscious level. And by unconscious, I mean the what we call the emotional brain, which is kind of the limbic area, which we're in, you know, where it's like happiness, sadness, memory, all these kind of places. And it's such a reactionary part of the brain. There's good stuff as well as bad stuff there. But when we don't resolve things that have happened to us, we end up projecting them out onto our environment. Absolutely. So, you know, we don't see, you know, the person we're working with as who they really are. We see them as what our experience is with a similar pattern. So, for example, it's not uncommon where you hear somebody who's grown up in a really abusive household, they have trust issues. And those trust issues, they consciously know, well, I should trust my spouse. We've been together 10 years, and she's always been nice to me. But yet they're projecting out from that early time period. That emotional brain says, oh, pattern seems familiar, danger, danger. And they react with anger, with frustration. And what we end up doing is reinforcing those patterns over and over again because we're reacting that way. But the thing is, we don't often know how we're reacting. We don't take the time to step back and, you know, really examine that. It just seems kind of that's the way life is, and it's really not. You know, we talk about stages of development, where that foundational stage, the developmental psychologist Erik Erikson talked about this, the first year of our life, our challenge is to either trust the environment or to mistrust the environment. And the environment are those primary caregivers. So if we're trying to build a life of good connection with others and the spiritual path and all these kind of things, we need to resolve those early stages, because if we don't trust, really don't trust ourselves, let alone other people, let alone the universe, no matter what we do, it's going to be blocked. Because, you can do all the intentions and affirmations and all of that, but your emotional brain will be going, yeah, that's crap, because I've had this experience that's still here and hasn't been resolved yet. And I'm going to go over my experience rather than this faith that you're trying to sell me. So it's only when we get down deep into that, and this is going back to where we first talked about psychotherapy is kind of a spiritual process in a way. We get down into that and we release those old feelings, those old wounds, those old traumas, and heal that part of us, that we can really start projecting what is out onto the world. So your spouse, when he or she does something really kind to you and you're reacting with anger because you've created all these scenarios in your mind about what it means, that's not really them. That's all you. And that's the whole self-responsibility thing. What am I seeing here that's me? So healing that is, I think, the gateway to so many things in our life, because everything we see, is a projection to some degree of what's going on with us. And what's going on with us might not be what's really going on now, but it might be things that are in the past. So we start this projecting out onto the universe everything that we've been through. If we've had a rough time in life, we haven't seen that the challenge also has the good part. That's where that balance comes in. We're going to be reacting in probably less than resourceful ways. And the only way to cure that is to really open up to the possibility that things can be different and really get in there and work the very depth of whatever it is to own it and say, this is it. I own this. How can I heal this?
What do you think prompts the moment where the individual, is becoming aware of what they're projecting within, outwardly, but within? What do you think's going on? Because sometimes we don't even know what we're projecting. What do you think in that moment happens to the individual where they see it happening?
Where they recognize that they're projecting, or they're just projecting?
Yes. Where they recognize it.
Yeah, when they finally have that moment, it's almost like neurobiologically, we could say the prefrontal cortex, which is this part like right around the a little above your eyebrows, part of the brain,
happens?
which is it starts to take over a little bit. It kind of disassociates from this pattern of reactivity. The emotional brain is the reactive brain. The frontal cortex is the more thinking, rational part. So for some reason, and it could be different depending on each person, that front part of the brain, that thinking, logical part of the brain goes, hey, this doesn't make sense. And when it does that, it then actually quiets down that emotional part of the brain. One reason why when we are doing a task that's very complex, our emotional brain, it's hard to get it revved up because it can't operate at the same time reactively if the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, so to speak, is in charge. But the other side is when you flip your switch and you're acting out and really upset and screaming and yelling, people keep telling you to calm down and think rationally. You might not be able to because that part of the brain can't go online at the same time. That's that fight or flight response. So if you're in fight or flight, you can't think rationally. And you know what? That might be a good thing because if you're walking in the woods and a bear comes out to eat you, you probably don't want to be thinking rationally. You want to be in fight or flight, which means you're running at the speed of light. For each person, something's happening to where it just clicks, and they can see it for what it is. Oh, I'm not angry at my, friend about she forgot to call me. I'm really angry at, my mom, who made me feel like I was always not valuable and not enough. And that moment of insight goes, okay, now I can see it. Now, you got to do more than just see it, but that moment of insight, that connection that thinking part of the brain makes, that's when we have the opportunity now to create a shift inside the person.
There's a sense of freedom in that also, isn't there, from that entrapment, that self-entrapment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If all you've done is react your whole life, and believe me, many of us have done that, now that you're, it's a sense of control. I feel myself getting angry, but I realize I don't have to be angry. But the thing is, when people don't take responsibility for themselves, and they just think everyone should kind of move around them when they're upset, the common thing I hear is, well, why can't you just let me be upset? Well, sometimes that's okay to be upset, but when it's a continuous thing where you're hurting people in your life, there comes a point where, hey, you got to own this. If you're getting upset, that's you. And when you realize that, I can change those feelings, I can do something different, that is an incredibly liberating thing, much in the same way that the liberating of, hey, it's all up to me. A lot of people run from it's all up to me because that also means you're going to feel some isolation. You're going to feel alone. But that also can be a way to, go into deeper realms of our unconscious. And once you see that, you got a hand in creating this, you can see it for what it is. Oh, you're more than halfway there. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's incredible. Tell us a little bit of how people can get a hold of you, Paul.
Easiest way for people to find me is probably online at drpaullesley.com. That's DrPaulLeslie.com. I work in, as your bio you're reading, I work in Aiken, South Carolina as a therapist, but also I'm an educator. I teach college. I'm head of the Behavioral Sciences Department at Aiken Technical College. I also speak and write books and, kind of focus on the things that are, bring me joy best I can. And so it's a good life.
Yeah, it's incredible once we take on our gifts and our passion, where that the mind and heart kind of blend in together in our actions and the way we are and the way we want to be. It's incredible. Life really does show up, and I guess your testimony. And thank you for being here, for sharing this with us. I want to talk a little bit about your books. I love this title, Low Country Shamanism, an exploration of the magical and healing practices of the coastal Carolinas and Georgia. Can you tell us a little bit about this? This is fascinating.
Yeah, this book is definitely a change for my writing and some of my researching. As I mentioned, I live in South Carolina now. I've lived all over in different places, but South Carolina for the past almost 8 years has been home to me. And I never really knew much about any kind of indigenous healing magic practices on the southeastern East Coast. And one day I was in a clinical supervision meeting, and this woman was stating that one of her clients had having panic attacks because he believed that somebody had put what he called put the root on him. And now I was not really familiar with that term, put the root on. I said, well, what does that mean? And she says, oh, well, he says it's kind of like a curse. It's like some form of a witchcraft or something. I said, oh, okay.
Wow.
And so we kind of like, how do we help the guy? And I kind of feel that if somebody's belief is entrenched that deeply, the only thing you can do is to find somebody to, buy in, step into that belief. So I told him, said, go find somebody to help him take the root off. Well, what the root is, it can be a hex, but it's also, I found out, it's a talisman that embodies and expresses a magical spell. And so that was fascinating to me. So I started just asking around and, just more curious than anything. And I remember one weekend, my wife and I were in Savannah, Georgia. I used to live in the Savannah. It's one of my favorite cities, a beautiful, beautiful city.
Oh, we've been there. It is beautiful. We've been there.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
It is. And we were there, and we took one of those fun ghost tours where it's like haunted history tour.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed it. And at the end, the tour guide said something about hoodoo, and it's kind of like voodoo, but hoodoo and root doctors. And so I said, well, wait a second, I heard about root, and it turns out that root doctors are the same thing as witch doctors, voodoo doctors, voodoo practitioners, conjure practitioners, and they apparently were very prevalent in what we call the Low Country, which is this area from the coastal areas of North Carolina down to like the tip of Florida. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, coastal areas. And so the next day, it just really was in my head, what's the deal with this? Is this something I should even pursue? And I mentioned something to my wife, who was sitting in the seat beside me as we drove home, and I said, do you think I should even, follow or even study? Is there anything to this magic and healing stuff? And then right as I had said it, a car, I remember it to this day, it was a white BMW, passed us. And as second I said that, it passed us, and the magic plate spelled M-A-G-I-C-K.
Wow.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so a little synchronicity. So I started studying, and what I did is I started going around knocking on doors, talking to people, and what I found is that hoodoo, or conjure, is not only a method of magic and healing that a lot of the slave populations brought with them from Africa, but it's also used historically by these African Americans to kind of endure the oppression they were under during slave times, to give them a sense of hope and to give them a sense of protection. So this was a very pragmatic way of healing and creating magic that involved everything from sacred dances to rituals, to divination, spirit possession, herbal healing. They viewed illness as a spiritual cause, and due to the nature of the times, so much of it was kept underground because, they had to assimilate to, the white captors' religious beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's
right.
It's been an amazing journey to go and to actually meet practitioners, some that are open about it, others that would only talk to me privately and said they'd only talk if certain things weren't printed about them. So it's a fascinating excursion, and it is really a remarkable shamanic art unto itself, but it doesn't get a lot of publication. Oh, well, the roots, go all the way back to Africa, West Central Africa.
Incredible.
1,000 years. Yeah, it's one of the most powerful kingdoms in Central Africa was Congo. And that's where a lot of it came out of. And they held this worldview that they were kind of a part of nature rather than separate from it. So then nature had all the, what we call animism, where there were spirits in the trees, spirits in the water.
Right.
And it was this complete system of a religious system. And, a lot of the inanimate objects having spirits may have even been the formative way that where we get certain sacred amulets that have evolved into what we call bodyguards in the Low Country. And New Orleans, they call them mojo bags. So there's a long tradition that's unfortunately still kind of hidden.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you just decided to write a book on this?
Yeah, I got into it because I've always been fascinated by indigenous healing traditions, and I thought, well, maybe kind of a way to honor these people, because, you think about this culture, how much their life were dealing with this horrific, events of being ripped out of their homeland, brought to the New World, and forced into slavery and all of this, how resourceful they were to do their own healing and to kind of take care of themselves and to endure all this. And today, there's still places around, some, like I said, who are easy to find, others not so easy to find, to where this indigenous shamanism, really, because they're communing with nature, nature spirits, doing a lot of spiritual healing, all these kind of things still going on, but it's not recognized as something of value. So I thought, maybe I could honor these people by writing a very short book about the, if you will, the system, because I think it's worthy of an anthropological view.
Absolutely. It's incredible how all the indigenous peoples from around the world have the same knowledge and live the knowledge of being a part of nature instead of separate to it. And from that, it brings on peace and harmony within the culture itself.
Yeah, it sets up the order. When you go, I'm connected with everything, it ceases to be a hierarchy.
Right.
With me at top. It's like I'm a part of something, but if I think I'm at the top of the hierarchy, I'm going to be acting in a different way. Well, if I'm the top dog, so to speak, I'm going to exert my will over all the bottom dogs. And this view of whereas you're part of nature, it takes away the hierarchy. You become part of that web, and you're an important, very important part of the web. But so are rabbits and trees and water, and as opposed to seeing that anything I do, since I'm at the top, will have no real adverse effects to me. It goes, well, if I'm a part of everything, then anything I do will have an adverse effect on me and everything else. It's a whole different perspective, that's for sure.
Yeah, that goes right into, you can get into quantum physics with that, where how we think, it corresponds to, the material world corresponds to how we think, and it has we do have an effect on our surroundings. It's incredible knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. If we really truly decided to adopt the belief that anything that we did in our daily life would sometime, somewhere affect the overall human family, animal family, the whole biosphere, our choices suddenly shift. They become one of egocentric, I need to get what I need, to I still might need to get what I need, but how do I get it in a way that I can enjoy it, as opposed to short-term game. I want what I want. Oh, okay, now, I'm messing up this web. I'm breaking the web because I thought I was at the top of the hierarchy. It's kind of creating win-win as opposed to win-lose. And anytime we think in dichotomies as, I have to I either have this or I don't, we eliminate possibilities. So if we say, what's the possibility that I'm a part of everything, and that, no matter what happens to me is a part of my growth, and how I respond with love and compassion will benefit others, it's a different perspective than, was it Wall Street, greed is good, Michael Douglas, Gecko, greed is good kind of mentality. It's all about me. So, I guess opening up more to we rather than me is kind of the consistent thread I found in a lot of these ancient cultures.
Yeah, our modern world has us, it's like a dog-eat-dog world. We get our education, we get into our careers, and there's a lot of me-ism in it, and it's almost, for some people, it's almost impossible to see another kind of reality.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's, I think, part of our projection. Because if we've been brought up and, to say that there's not enough, and we project there's not enough, well, obviously, if we're at the top of the hierarchy, there's not enough, we're going to do, what we have to make sure there's enough. So it's really totally understandable. So if you have only one set of instructions and you're following it, I don't think you're a bad person. I don't, I think I'd like you to have maybe 10 sets of instructions rather than one, so you have a choice. And, when we feel we have a choice, we can create possibilities rather than this is it. It's dog eat dog, as you say, as opposed to lie on the couch like a cat and have everyone serve you. You have other possibilities you could have in your life.
Oh, that's great. Dr. Paul, what are you up to lately? Do you have any projects in mind that you'd like to share with us?
Right now, I'm always working on books. I'm working on another book for therapists about how to use what I call resource-directed therapy, which is instead of focusing on what's wrong with people, finding an inner resource that they already have to help them transform their lives. And I'm talking with publishers now, and I'm feeling pretty positive about this book. My goal is to write books that even people who aren't therapists, who are healers, could enjoy as well, and try to make it very conversational and applicable to everybody. I'm also releasing a whole series of free videos. It's part of my giving back. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've worked really hard, but I've been fortunate to learn a lot of things from a lot of wonderful people, and so I'm releasing some videos on clinical hypnosis, which is one of my specialties, and they're on YouTube. It's called Trance for Therapists, and even though it's strictly geared toward mental health professionals, anybody who uses clinical hypnosis or is interested in working with the unconscious mind might pick up a tool or another one. I've just released one, and I'm going to try to do one a week for forever. I think if something's so wonderful that can help people, why not give it away? The more people that can help and heal and learn and grow, it makes the world a better place. So that's kind of some of the projects. There's always other stuff. I'm doing some research on emotional intelligence, more academic stuff, and that's always fascinating to me as well. But staying busy.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for for just listening to yourself, your gifts, and just following through and being responsible enough to doing all this for others, and I'm sure at the same time it's very, very rewarding to you. I want to talk about your other book. It's called Potential Not Pathology: Helping Your Clients Transform Using Ericksonian Psychotherapy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. This book, I'm really proud of that book. It's based on the work of a psychiatrist who lived, really practiced between the 1940s and 1970s. I think he died in 1980. His name was Milton Erickson. And Dr. Erickson is renowned as being one of the greatest hypnotists of all time. But in addition to him being an incredible hypnotist, he was also an amazing psychotherapist. But his approach was so confusing to so many people because he'd do crazy things and people would change and no one would understand how in the heck he did it. It's been kind of difficult to to follow and learn these things. So I sat down because Erickson was just a huge influence on me, on my life, on the way I do therapy, and I started going through all of his cases that I could find and start to see certain patterns that he used. And so Potential Not Pathology is based on his view that, a person, when they come to you, they're not sick. They usually just have limited patterns, whether these patterns are limited ways of thinking, limited ways of feeling, limited ways of acting. So if they have a pattern issue, a lot of times, all we need to do is break up the pattern and move them to a resource, move them toward a resource that can benefit them. So, one of the earliest stories I heard of Erickson was a colleague asked him to look in on his aunt, and his aunt had some kind of medical issue to where she was confined to a wheelchair, and she lived alone. And his colleague told Erickson that he was very worried about his aunt, and that he thought she was terribly depressed. So Erickson, went by, being the good doctor, went by to just visit with her. And she met him at the door in a wheelchair, and she had this huge house with all this amount of money. And she just locked away inside the house. She wasn't going anywhere. And so she showed Erickson the house when he got there, and being polite. And he said every room he went in, the windows were closed, the drapes were drawn. It was very dark and dismal. And they went through this huge house until finally they came across one room that had a lot of color and energy to it, and it was a little greenhouse on the back. And in that greenhouse, she had all these clippings of African violet plants. That's the one area she was working. She clipped all these African violet plants. So Erickson, who grew up on a farm, kind of talked to her for a minute about how difficult it must be to, take these clippings and to root them, and they chatted for a minute. And then Erickson kind of looked directly at her and says, "Your nephew's worried about you." And she says, "I know." And Erickson said, "He thinks you're depressed." And she said, "I know." And then Erickson said, "I don't think your problem's depression. I think it's because you haven't been a very good Christian." Now, this shocked the lady, who prided herself on being a wonderful religious person, but she hadn't been to church since her medical issue, which confined her to the wheelchair. And Erickson said, "You have all these beautiful plants, and you're keeping them to yourself. I want you to get your church bulletin, and every time there's a wedding, every time there's a funeral, every time there's a graduation, I want you to take whoever's involved an African violet plant." And she agreed to do that because that was the good Christian thing to do. Years later, when Erickson was telling this story to one of my mentors, they asked, "Well, what happened?" And he pulled out this newspaper article. It was a headline. It was in Milwaukee. It said, "African Violet Queen Dies, Mourned by Thousands."
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And so they said, "Well, how did you do that?" And he said, "I looked for the only place in her life where there was energy and life. I thought it was easier to grow the African violets than to weed out the depression." That's amazing.
What an incredible story.
Yeah. So that's what got me so excited in Dr. Erickson. So that book, Potential is Not Pathology, is what's potential in people. And this lady, her resource is flowers, African violets. The pathology was the depression. What do we spend most of our time on? The problem. How do you feel? How long you felt like the problem? Why do you feel that way? What can we do about the problem? Instead of giving her the resources to create change in her own life. And that's what the Potential Not Pathology book's about. Very proud of it, and I hope therapists, people who work with other people, get something out of it, because I think if we could get back to that, we can get back to the healing that we talked about at the beginning of the program. We can take psychotherapy back to the path of healing rather than a path of treating problems.
It's such a domino effect when someone is in their, in their healing, and they, and like this African violet woman who did Queen, ended up touching so many other people's lives, thousands of people's lives. Just by switching and focusing herself on that suggestion from Erickson.
Right, and I think that's part of the web. We are part of the web. Instead of, she's at the top of the hierarchy, it's different. Her small shift in taking out those violets, how many people were touched by that? Oh, hundreds, maybe even thousands. And, if we're all part of that, what small acts could we do every day to be kinder, to be nicer, to make people laugh, to make people feel more comfortable, all those kind of things. again, that comes back to self-responsibility. Am I here on earth to be a beacon of love, compassion, light, humor, fun, or am I just designed here to be a curmudgeon or to constantly play out the old traumas and things like that? And it's a choice, and it's a difficult choice for a lot of people. But when you move over to the side of, I'm just going to try to focus on how many people I can connect with in a positive way, life does seem to get a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's great. Great stuff you're sharing with us today, Dr. Paul. One more time with how people can get a hold of you, and after that we're going to take a break, and I'll hand over the microphone to Cabrini. So one more time with how do people get a hold of you, Paul?
The easiest way is to go to my website, www.drpaulleslie.com, drpauleslie.com. I also have a Facebook page, all these kind of things, but that's all off the main website. I look forward to interacting and hearing from people.
All right, folks, there it is. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
While we take a short break, please take a moment and bookmark our Creative Consciousness radio show here on Blog Talk Radio. If you're living a spiritually purposed life and want to connect and co-create with others in the spiritual community at large, become a member of All True Natural Cooperative. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter. And for more information, visit our website at alltruenatural.com. Promoting awareness as a key to harmonious living.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Creative Consciousness Radio Show here on Blog Talk Radio. This is our Sunday morning light show, and we are here to support individuals that are living purpose lives, spiritually purposed lives, and also to promote awareness. We find that individuals that increase awareness also increase their own harmony within their own life. And so we bring forth and support those individuals from all walks of life, from all over the earth, that bring forth different ideas, different focuses, different structures of knowledge, of education, of experience. And they work directly with the community at large. And we really honor their work because we feel that their work is really intrinsic in the overall well-being of our community at large, our whole planet Earth. So thank you, Dr. Paul. This has been an incredible show this morning. Do you have a message for humanity?
Ooh, that's a wonderful question. It's like that old saying, if you could stand in front of the UN and say anything, what would you say?
Yeah.
If I was in front of the UN, I would just say, stop it. But if for my message for humanity, I just, as how do I say, passe as it may sound, I don't think it ever goes out of style. It's just, love yourself, love each other, because yourself is other, and other is yourself. And when you just accept who you are, where you are, and just love yourself in spite of it, sometimes you find that just filters out to everybody. So just love yourself, love each other.
Yeah, this has been an incredible show. What a great message to our listeners, to really love yourself. And, for those individuals, there's probably people out there that really don't even have an experience of love. They really don't even know what that is. And so, I'm just going to suggest perhaps maybe even you, Paul, can share a little bit about, just being with the place where you can be comfortable.
Right.
like perhaps even a natural setting that feels physically. I find that one of the things that I focus a lot on is the physical body because, we are within the body, who we are. And, if our body isn't doing well, it kind of ripples also in the other direction towards the emotional. So, how we take care of our body and get used to our own, physical kind of vibrational energy, those things that make us feel comfortable, those environments that support us. If we put ourselves and take those actions, it really does assist, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we really support you and really listening to yourself. If you are being called, to, seek professional help, we always, our motto is, you can only go as far as you've gone yourself.
Right.
And for us, in the spiritual path, it is really about discovery of who we are and on multidimensional levels, not only in what we can see with our eyes, but with those things that we, almost feel like you can't even touch, but it really exists regardless. So, we're here to support those individuals that are living that life, and we hope that today's show with Dr. Paul J. Leslie has helped you to gain some perspective about, really bringing your life into form, not only in an extreme of enlightenment, but also in a very practical way, practical living within your emotional body, within your physical body, within, the various parts of us that are kind of scattered throughout all of time. Wouldn't you say, isn't it like that, Dr. Paul? It's like when you're working with someone, one of your clients per se, that it is kind of like a puzzle, and you're kind of putting the puzzle back together again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the analogy of the puzzle is very good, but at the same time realize that, you don't always have to have the same puzzle. That, maybe they're clinging to an old puzzle, so we can always create new puzzles too.
Yeah, and just bringing yourself together to that place where you're comfortable. And I think once individuals really realize their own comfortability, then they can really start to get to know what love is. Because love,
Absolutely.
I find, is very peaceful and comfortable and satisfying and fulfilling. But there's been many individuals, on planet Earth here, Dr. Paul, that just never had that experience.
Yes, and that's unfortunate. It really is.
So we encourage you to take a look at Dr. Paul's books on his website at drpaulleslie.com. Reach out, call your neighbor, talk to your friend, seek a professional. I know myself, the knowledge that I have today is a direct result of the work that I've done in my inner realms. And, it does meet. There is a bridge that we do create from our head to our, from our head to our heart. And, we do it one step at a time. So, really enjoy the ride, folks. Really enjoy who you are and what's going on. And, find a place where you can see the joy. I really love what you said today about the potential of each individual, right, and to really focus on what you're capable of versus what you're not capable of. And I really also enjoyed that perspective of, yes, where there's light, there is also a dark side, because we are in duality here. We're
right,
still in the magnificence of duality and creation. So it's been a wonderful show. Thank you. And it'd be great to have you back again at another time. As you, progress here with your own, individual growth, that you share it with us and perhaps, bridge that gap.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate the work you guys do, and keep it up.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, folks, that's your Sunday morning light show here on Creative Consciousness Radio. You can read more about the work that we do on our website at oneheart.oneloveonespirit.org. Please reach out and get in touch with Dr. Paul Leslie. You can find him on Facebook and also on his website at drpaulleslie.com. Have a wonderful day, much love, many blessings, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Thank you.
We're going to let the show go off with some music from Jim Wafer. He's a bell drum maker out of New Zealand. Have a great day, folks. Much love. God bless. Okay, so there we are. Oh, he hung up.